All right, so in this video, we're going to start planning out content and planning that content based on your sales goals. I like to be a little bit strategic when, not just a little bit, I like to be strategic when it comes to planning out content. And I do that based on sales goals. Because if you're going to put the effort into building a piece of content, then you definitely want it to be working for you. Even though you can put up feel good posts and that kind of thing and showcase customers and case studies, which are great, you definitely want to make sure that in some form or another, it's going to be moving you towards your sales goals, which business is all about. All right, so the first thing you really have to ask yourself is who is your target market? And I'm going to have it available on this course, but also in the campus, you'll be able to find the buyer persona worksheet. And that's a great thing to fill out in terms of really mapping out who it is that you are trying to target, trying to speak to, their frame of mind, and where they're at in life and the pain point that you are solving with your product or service. So asking yourself who your target market is the first step. And then from there, you want to look at what are their interests and pain points? What kind of content are they going to be looking for? What is the problem that you're solving for them? And how can you write content that assists them with that? When you provide that value is really when you find that sweet spot in terms of creating content for your blog. And so there's a few different types. We had looked at different types of blog posts in the last video, but that was more kind of like overarching themes. So now we're going to look at, in terms of your products and services, what are some types of questions you can ask yourself in trying to map out the content that your audience wants. So when looking at educational posts, which is my favorite type of post to do for all different types of businesses, not just my own. So educational posts, you can ask yourself, are there any tutorials that you can share? Are there product walkthroughs or any type of tutorials that you can share, even if it's not to do with your particular product? It could be just a walkthrough or a tutorial that your audience would find helpful. What are some frequently asked questions that you can answer? It's good to have a frequently asked questions section on your website, but sometimes in order to be able to really encapsulate the entire answer, you need to be able to have a long form blog. And so if you're not sure what type of FAQs are being asked, your front of line staff are great people. Just ask them, the people that deal with the customers every day, and say, what are the most common questions that you're getting? This will probably give you a long list of blog post ideas because those are the things that people are wanting to learn and wanting to understand. All right. So what is some industry knowledge that you can share? Is there something specific, not necessarily to your business, but to your niche that you can share with your audience that they would find cool, appealing? Is there some kind of conference or trade show, or is there new technology that's come out? What is some industry knowledge that you can share? All right. And so then there's brand building posts. So this is all about people that, building that relationship with your audience and having them get to know you so that they feel comfortable with you and that they understand that they like you as a business. And so you can ask yourself, why did you start this business? What was the driving force behind it? What made you want to, become an entrepreneur? These are things that if you map that out, you can map it out for the owner if you work for a business, and really what was the driving force behind starting the business. Brand building could also be community involvement news. I know that most local businesses work with some kind of not-for-profit. They usually do some community work. What is that for you? And when does it happen in the year? And can you do a post on it? Even if it happens after the event and it's more of like an event wrap up, Or, you know, if you know that someone's having a food drive, you could do a post on why you involve yourself with that entity and why you believe in it so much, and then lead them to, you know, how to get involved as well. So community news is a great way to build a brand. And then there's the staff or customer spotlight. So I've come back to that quite a few times, and I think it's important, especially if you have a team that, you know, that your customers are going to work hand in hand with. So this could be more service based or project based. Having a staff or customer spotlight is great, because in service based and project based businesses, people want to make sure that they're going to work well with you. And so if you can showcase that, great. And then there's product and service focused. So ask yourself, why do people need your product? What is the problem that you're solving? What is the pain point that your target audience has? And how can you move them from that before state to the after state? All right, so use cases are a great way to, great thing to have as content on your site. So if you, especially if you have a complex product, or maybe people typically need to be walked through how to use it, having, you know, a video or even step by step with pictures on how to use your product is a great thing. And when your staff gets those questions, you know, via phone call or email, if you have that content living on your site, it gives your team a resource to be able to give to your audience. And so that will save on customer service time as well. And so the last one is explaining the process of working with your company. So this could be, you know, a mock project post that kind of explains in a linear fashion what that process is. That's a great piece of content, especially for those that maybe do service or focus-based, service-focused work, and people want to understand, how is this going to work? Great question. That's probably one of the most commonly asked questions. And so these are questions that you can ask yourself. Now, we do have in the campus, on the worksheets tab, this business blogging worksheet. So if you click on that, it'll open in a new tab. You can download it, or you can print it out and fill it out. And so I have it open here in my Adobe. And so I like to fill this out when I'm starting to work with a client. And so what I'll do is I'll look at a focused product or service, or if you want to do high level, you can just do high level and just do your business. So in this, I'm going to fill this out as an example so you can see how I work through it. And so I'm going to just say that I'm focusing on spa services. All right, so commonly asked questions about the product. So let's define this a little bit more and just call this microblading. It's a spa that offers microblading services. So a lot of questions in terms of this, if people were to ask questions about the product, it would be probably, does it hurt, right? Does it hurt? Another one would be, how long does it last? It could be, you know, how do you find your shape? And so this, I would talk to people that deal with customers and really map out a whole bunch of frequently asked questions. So neat features about the product and service. I think probably here, this would be a lot of benefits. So in terms of microblading, I guess we could say that it can last years. With minimal touch-ups. Also, it can match, we'll just say match your existing eyebrow color. and then you could just go through and fill this out. I would just keep going and going. This is a great thing to do with your team, and everyone can kind of spitfire ideas. So is there a cool story about how you started this offering? Well, let's say for this one, it's the owner that does the work. And she traveled long and far to get training. I would map that out. It could also be if you realize that there was a need in your market, and you went on this search to find it, you sourced it, you brought it to town, that kind of thing. This can be really if there's a cool story on how you started offering this. So what problem is this solving? Well, me being a female, a middle-aged female, I can tell you that it fixes the 90s eyebrows. There's probably more that I could list here as well. What's the biggest objection of the sale? And so here I would probably say price point, people worried it will hurt, scared, etc. So what's something people should know about your product or their problem that they don't? They don't have to spend so much time doing their eyebrows every day. Tips and tricks you can share about this topic. So this could be, aftercare, deciding on the right shape, eyebrow symmetry. And so once you've mapped this out, it gives you a good idea of different topics that you could do for your blog. So if I wanted to focus on microblading, because that was a sales goal of mine, I knew I wanted to increase the amount of appointments I had for it, then after I mapped this out, you could match up some of these together, or it could be one long blog post that's kind of like a pillar post on your site. It doesn't have to be super, all of these don't have to be individual blog posts, like each point, but it is important to look at what you've mapped out. And so you know that you're solving a problem, you know that there may be objections. Well, how can you speak to those and start creating content for that? And so one of the things here is that you have objections to the sale, so you know why people are saying no, but then you also know what like the features are and like some of the commonly asked questions. So you can really map together different types of content that are really speaking to what your target audience is needing to know. So that's kind of how we map out our content. And then from there, in the next video, we're going to talk about writing a blog post in an hour or less, or my process in writing a blog post in an hour or less. See you in the next video.